What if I told you that you may only have not months, not weeks, but literally only days before the biggest bust, bigger than the largest, most ginormous giga bust you could ever imagine, occurs? Would you be ready? Or would the bust leave you behind? Bitcoin over the last couple of days had one of its biggest dumps of the past couple of weeks, but as of right now sits firmly right still around those previous all-time highs. But what if I told you that something big is about to change way faster than even myself maybe a couple of days ago thought was even possible? And what if I told you the reason for this was honestly pretty insane? So if you understand that Bitcoin is basically on the verge of potentially the biggest bust that we've quite literally ever seen since the beginning of humankind, hit that like, hit that subscribe, get signed up to BINGX below if you want to buy Bitcoin or altcoins. Without any further ado, let's absolutely jump in to Bitcoin. And I want to actually start off with something extremely big. So here we have Bitcoin, and right here on this day is where the Bitcoin spot ETFs were approved. And what do you notice? What do you notice about this day? Well, a decent dump, right? Bitcoin had a little bit of a tumble. And if we actually look at this chart, you can see that these are the GBTC outflows by day, starting on January 11th, going to where we are right now, about March 6th. So basically there's been 2 full months almost of these ETFs. And obviously there's a clear pattern you see here. From January 11th to roughly about January 26th, these outflows were massive, right? And so we look at this chart, January 11th, right here, to about the 26th, right here. Outflows were massive, and the Bitcoin price was pretty dumpalicious. We got absolutely diddled and creamed, gigabanged, whatever you want to call it. The price of Bitcoin went from about 48,000 down to about 38,000. And then really once the GBTC outflows really kind of got below about 250 million per day, right around the 29th, all the way up until about the 27th of February, so January 29th to February 27th, what do you notice? When these outflows were lower, we saw Bitcoin basically just float upwards, beginning on this day, January 26th, going from the low here of about 38,000 all the way up to over 63,000, about 64,000. However, right, it was basically, I mean, there was some trading sideways specifically here in the very middle of February, but for the most part, Bitcoin massively rallied, right? And we look back at this chart, we really start to see these inflows really start to pick up. Basically, February 29th is where they really got, pretty big again, February 29th. And what do you see February 29th? Well, on the 28th, Bitcoin had the biggest daily candle we've seen of this run so far. And then the 29th was our very first red day in 6 candles. So it was the 6th candle was the first red one, right? It was massively upside from 50 to 64,000. And then we had a pullback. And for a couple days, we traded sideways, right? These inflows or these outflows, were pretty strong. We're seeing the outflows now trend downwards again. Okay, and it'll be interesting to see what the outflows are today. But we're seeing these inflows trade downwards. Honestly, was this the Genesis? Was this Genesis selling? Because I know they were cleared to sell. Is it Gemini Earn? I'm honestly just looking for someone. I follow people all the time, and I have not actually seen a clear answer on why we got this massive outflow spike right here on February 29th. But I believe it was right around when Genesis was cleared to begin selling. If anyone actually knows, not speculation, if anyone actually knows the reason, I don't even know if anyone does 100% know the reason that we got this massive spike, but if anyone does, please leave a comment below. I'm very interested. I actually tweeted about this like an hour ago. I was just trying to figure out what it was. Almost irrelevant, but the point here is that massive spike, and we see this trending downwards again. Right now, we're at about 276 million of outflows as of yesterday. Today, as I said, we don't know what the outflows are going to be, but most likely very interesting. Now, with that, we did see Bitcoin on the 4th have a massive candle from about 62,000 up to the previous all-time highs and slightly even broke those previous all-time highs by just a fraction before getting rejected very big. That was the 4th of March and the 5th of March. And the 4th and 5th of March had a pretty high amount of outflows. So what does that mean? Well, For one, it means that the inflows exceeded the outflows to be able to pull a move off like that, right? But the bigger picture here is that as we're consolidating right around these previous all-time highs, as we see these outflows get weaker and weaker for the past about 9 trading sessions, or basically about actually the past 5 trading sessions, if this trend continues, which it looks like it's going to continue this way, Bitcoin should be cleared for a run-up again, maybe even similar to like what we saw here, where we're just left unconstrained for even just a couple of weeks. The fact that GBTC outflows were massive right here and price got dumped on, and then they were very small right here and price got pumped on. However, now we see a massive spike in these GBTC outflows again. However, Bitcoin still managed over about a week period to still go up somehow. So one, that's showing immense strength, because honestly, if you would have showed me this pattern, if you would have shown me all of this, and let's go back to February 28th, you would have shown me all that, and then you showed me, oh, this is what the outflows were going to look like on the 29th. If I would have gotten taken back in time, I would have said, oh, okay, we're probably going to see, maybe a move like that. Maybe we'll even retest 50,000. But really, the inflows were so great that that's not what happened. We still somehow managed to have a daily uptrend there. So that is a ginormous dynamic that I think that we have to understand, because week by week, in my opinion, these outflows are going to get weaker and weaker, kind of like this trend. It's still so early. We're only 2 months in, but honestly, there can only be so much selling pressure. So I think that Bitcoin's going to be able to have a massive move over the next couple of trading sessions with the spot ETFs. But also, I want to highlight something even bigger than that. So Adam Back, who was one of the original contributors to the creation of Bitcoin, I believe he created Hashcash. Don't quote me on that. Maybe it's in his bio, actually. Inventor of Hashcash, used in Bitcoin mining. So he's integral to the creation of Bitcoin. Without Adam Back, Bitcoin may never have been created. So he's an important figure, right? Anyway, he said bankruptcies, net selling, GBTC are going to run out soon enough. Then we'll be facing a $1 billion per day literal Bitcoin buy wall every single day. Net sellers meaning there's no price impact if someone sells an ETF and buys another ETF or physical Bitcoin to cold store, basically. And now something even bigger than that, because the implications of that are massive, right? If we have $1 billion of inflows coming in per day for Bitcoin, that's massive. And Fred Krueger actually on X took this post and then kind of added to it, saying $1 billion a day in new demand should create about $100 billion in new market cap daily. That's probably according to the Bank of America bull market multiple, I believe, which I believe the higher we go, that multiple actually increases. Again, I could be wrong about that, but it's not a static percent, or it's not a static multiple. I believe it's more nuanced than that. I believe it can jump around a little bit. Anyway, he said that's enough to move the price to $117,000 per Bitcoin in just 10 trading sessions. Basically, the market cap of Bitcoin, if we zoom in on this, the market cap of Bitcoin around 1.3 trillion, an inflow of $1 billion would push Bitcoin to, well, let's say this is where we are right now, right around 67. Another $1 billion in inflow, increase the market cap by 100 billion. You see these numbers, right? Almost about $5,000 in Bitcoin price appreciation per day. And this is leading up into the halving, which is an absolutely ginormous, also massive factor we have to consider. Now, with that being said, I actually want to continue talking about some of this stuff, but I do want to highlight just today, we're seeing the DXY break down right here, right out of this range. Look at this daily candle, down about 0.5%, which is big for the DXY. We're seeing that break down. We're seeing the SPX actually put in a new all-time high today. Okay. Further, these are things that historically have been good for Bitcoin. Inverse correlated to Bitcoin, DXY, and correlated to Bitcoin, stock market, so very big. And Bitcoin itself, honestly, I don't know. This looks crazy to me. Also, the altcoins are doing really well. And I actually do want to highlight that really quickly. The altcoins, Max Scalping Pro, bull market comes in 3 phases. There's an accumulation, breakout, and then bull mode. And this is the altcoin market cap total too. So everything except Bitcoin. And we are breaking out of this range as well. It's not going to be straight up, but it's very likely, and its consensus is around at least a couple of $1 trillion in market cap for the entire altcoin space. And I don't even think that's unrealistic at all. I think that's very realistic. So with that, we have this dynamic to me is honestly crazy right here. And I'd like your opinion on it, because if we do see these outflows really cease, because again, keep in mind, we're seeing, what is this, $600 million in outflows on the 29th, and Bitcoin basically stayed steady. If these inflows, basically, if you want Bitcoin to crash, you're basically praying that we just get a massive spike in these outflows consistently, because we have gotten a couple massive spikes and Bitcoin has been fine, and within a day starts pumping again. So basically, if you really want to short Bitcoin for a prolonged amount of time, let's say you open up a short position and you want to leave it open for a couple weeks because you think over a weekly period we're going to have like this multi-week downtrend, you better pray that these outflows keep coming in big. And if they don't, all data so far is suggesting that we're just going to pump massively. And that's what I'm saying. This dynamic with these Bitcoin ETFs are simply changing the game a little bit. Traditionally, technical analysis absolutely, I think, has been very important in daily charting or daily trading. And I think technical analysis is overall a pretty important thing. But with these inflows, I just simply think that, I'm not saying it's up only, but the up only pressure, I think, becomes way greater than anything we've ever experienced in this market. So with that being said, this isn't bullish. It's mega bullish. And get signed up to BINGX below if you want to buy Bitcoin or altcoins. And without any further ado,